Hello, I'm the Hammond Doctor, Dr. Kemp. In the last video, I demonstrated for you what it sounded like when you have a bad tube, one bad tube, in a Leslie amplifier. I installed a tube that I had tried out in a Leslie 147 amplifier and found that the tube caused a distorted sound in my Hammond organ Leslie system. And so now I'm sitting here by my B&K 747B tube tester, about to test this tube that had been installed in this amplifier. So let's see how this tube checks out on the B&K 747 mutual conductance tube tester. Now I already have everything set up as it should be. Here on the tube tester, let's pan in, and all I need to do, actually let's go ahead, let's first of all check for shorts. So when I push the shorts button here, dump the tube, I get no shorts. Okay, next let's check for grid emission. That is gas in the tube. No grid emission. Now we're going to check for mutual conductance here. Going to see how good the tube checks on the meter. And I may need to, in fact, raise the camera so that you can see the needle, which is right here. Now, let me see if I can pan in so you can see what's happening with respect to the needle. There you go. I'm holding this down, and you see this fluctuation. And on the tube tester, it's testing somewhat good, but then questionable. Look at it, look at it. Good. It's unsteady. It's like it's not sure what it wants to do. See, it's not holding steady, it's moving. So it's as though it wants to test good, but then it moves. It's not holding steady. Now it's holding steady at 90. As it has warmed up, the tube is warmed up. Look at this. It's testing out at 91. So it's testing good on the tube tester. Now let's do a life test. You watch the meter. I'm going to do life test. So it's showing over 90% of the life is left in this tube. So if I were to solely depend on my very trustworthy and reliable, very valid, useful that is, tube tester, if I were solely relying on that, I would think that this is a good tube. However, when this tube is installed in a perfectly excellent working amplifier, the tube obviously is not functioning as it should. It causes a rumbling, grumbling kind of sound. How do I know? Because when I remove the same tube that I have in the tube tester and replace it with another tube, I get a clean, pure Hammond organ sound. That lets me know that this tube has a problem, that it's bad, that it cannot be used in a Leslie amplifier. So I will discard this tube. Alright? So, what is the lesson learned in this? Here's the lesson. Even though your tube may check good on a professionally calibrated, this is a professionally calibrated tube tester, even though it may test good on the tube tester, the true test of the tube is going to be when you place it in an amplifier. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't depend or count on a tube tester, because let me explain something to you before. I'm not going to let you go on that. Because if you were to only use an amplifier to test your tubes, here's what you're going to be missing out on. Suppose the tube is short. If the tube has a short in it. Well, if the tube has a short in it, then you can mess up your amplifier by putting in tubes that have shorts, or that has a short in it. You can mess your amplifier up. So you need to test it to make sure it doesn't have shorts. Certainly, if a tube is emitting gas, that's a poorly functioning tube. Well, you won't necessarily know that when you put it into an amplifier. So again, you need a tube tester to check for that, for the emissions. Here it's called grid emissions. You need to be able to check for grid emissions on the tube tester. And even though in this situation, the life tests seem to indicate that there was significant life left in this tube, and even when we checked the quality of the functioning of the tube, it appeared, according to the tube tester, that the tube is functioning as it should, has high, strong quality. But the amplifier in this case says otherwise. So my message in this matter is that it's important to look at a tube's functioning from a holistic perspective. You can't just depend on the tube tester to tell you whether the tube is good, and you can't just depend on the amplifier to tell you if a tube is good or not. you need to combine both. Look at both. A tube tester, a tube on a tube tester, as well as the tube in the amplifier to see how it functions. That is what the Hammond doctor, calls a holistic, I call that a holistic approach to the evaluation of a vacuum tube. This is the Hammond doctor saying to you, please have a peaceful and wonderful day. Until the next video, goodbye.